The Sikkim is a summary of the Maamar Lehavin Inyan Neros Chanukah, which is a hemshech to the Maamar Tiskisliv Padam Shamnafshi Chavav. Both of these Maamarim together, the Rabbi is coming to explain unbelievable Inyan. The fact that chassidus is Lashon is brought Ein Seif Shebradla. With this, the Rabbi opens up the kuntis in Inyan Neros Chassidus. The Rabbi explains all the fascinating Inyanim about chassidus, and it all originates in the imik and the source of what chassidus really is. Chassidus is a gili of Ein Seif Shebradla. Very good Shmak Maamar. The Rebbe is here starting off the Inyan of Chanukah. To understand the Inyan of Chanukah, which is chiddush, unbelievable Inyan from the Atzmai, the Rebbe takes something which is Muzbar Chassidus in so many places. The Rebbe gives it a whole new depth and a whole new light. And with this, the Rebbe goes on to explain the Ayimik of Gili of Chassidus. So the Maamar starts off Lehavin Inyan Neros Chanukah. To understand Inyan Neros Chanukah, the Neros Chanukah were made as a result of the Neros in the Beis Hamikdash. The miracle that happened with the lights in the Beis Hamikdash, and yet there are many differences between the Neros of the Beis Hamikdash and the Neros of Chanukah. And the Rebbe brings three differences that are always brought, and that is in the amount of candles. In the Beis Hamikdash there were 7, and the Chanukah there were 8. In the Neros of the Beis Hamikdash was lit on the right side of the Heichal. You walk into the Kodesh, and the Neros of Chanukah have to be on the left side. And the time of the Hadlaka is also different. Neros Chanukah Neros of the Beis Hamikdash were lit by Plaga Mincha, and Neros of Chanukah have to be dafka after Shkia. And the Rebbe has a fourth nekuda, and that is the only mitzvah we find in Torah, which has to be done on a Rishus HaRabim, outside in the street. Menorah has to be lit dafka on the outside Pesach based on bachutz. We don't find there's any other mitzvah in Torah which makes it unique in all the other mitzvahs. And the famous Bir Chassidus gives, which the Rebbe brings over here, is that since there was this gabrus of chayshach, there was this tremendous chayshach at that time in the world. In order to overcome a chayshach, you need evidence of shalamayla mishtalsh. You need a level which is higher than ishtalshlus. In order to be mayor to light up the chayshach, such great darkness there was, regular light cannot combat this light. The only light that can illuminate this darkness is a light which is higher than ishtalshlus. And and therefore, the number 8 shows in lamayla mishtalshlus, and the place where it was lit has to be dafka on the left side, which shows on Unikas Chitzanim that you're unique from the Kava Smoil, and has to be lit in the Rishus HaRabim, because the whole technique is to light up the Rishus HaRabim, to light up the place where there's Rabbim, where there's Rishuyas Harbe, which are a stira to Achtas of the Eberster Klippus. And this all was brought out through the Mesiras Nefesh Mandasio and his children. They were tremendous Mesiras Nefesh. They were able to bring bimamshech this light, which was so powerful that it's able to lighten, to be meir the chayshach, to light up the chayshach. That's the beer always brought in chassidus. The Rebbe here asks a few basic, very sadistic shaylas, and that is, if we're speaking about the Mesiras Nefesh that was brought out the light, Lamal Meshtalshlus, this Inyan is also found in Purim. Purim was also Mesiras Nefesh. And in fact, Purim in a certain way is greater. Purim is Mesiras Nefesh of all the Yidden, not just Mesiras Nefesh of Matzaskar and his children. And yet we don't find this Nekuda that has to be done in Rishus HaRabim. There is an idea per Seminissa, but there's no need to do in Rishus HaRabim. Fakert, it's done usually in Shuls. That means that obviously Chanukah has something unique in its Mesiras Nefesh, that therefore has to be done in Rishus HaRabim. And then the Rebbe moves on to the basic Inyanim. The basic beer, that's the basic beer. The 7 shows on the Ishtalshlus, and 8 is the Mile Mishtalshlus. The Rebbe, 1 second. We're talking here about the Menorah. The Menorah are a gili of the Beis Hamikdash. The gili of the Beis Hamikdash is a gili of the Mile Mishtalshlus. And it was a muzber in many places, and especially in the Maamar, previous Maamar, this Maamar is based on Maamar Apada B'Shalom, that the Teichen of the Beis Hamikdash, the Shleima Malach, Chiddush of Shleima Malach, time of the Beis Hamikdash of Shleima Malach, that he was in one place, and although he was stayed in Eretz Yisrael, the light was mispashal b'chol mokim, and it was meir and lit up, and it was moider even people who were very far, like a very powerful avuka, which brings all the netzutzas that are far away to come drawn towards it, like we see by Malchus Shva. That was a chiddush of Shleim Malach over the Mishkan, which obviously that comes from a tremendous light, a gili l'mayla meishtashlis, which therefore has no agbalus, and therefore can be made even in the chutz. So what's unique about the Neros of the Mikdash, which are 8, over the 7? If we're speaking about the 7 in the Beis Hamikdash, which is also Lamayla Meshtalshlus, what makes this more special in the Lamayla Meshtalshlus itself? It must be a special Madriga, which is even more powerful than the Neros of the Mikdash. We have to understand what this Inyan is, and therefore from this we get to the next next question, that is, what is the Mila, what is the Inyan of Dafka lighting it in the left side of Dafka Nishas Rabbim? Based on when it's Muzber, when you get to Shleim HaMalach, so the whole Pshat, Lamayel Meshtalsh, is that it's a Gila which is Blikvul, and the Gila Blikvul means that it doesn't have any Agabolas, it doesn't have to, it's not limited to one place, it's not limited to where it can reach every single, all over. Like the mashal of the famous, of the mashal is brought of the Havuka, that the Havuka is so powerful that it's Meir B'chol Makim, therefore the sisters that are very far away can feel this Gila, and they can be attracted to this Gila. And yet you find, Punkt Fakert, that the Neros and the menorah, which l'chayr is a higher level, which we just said before, is limited in its power, seemingly, from the fact that it has to be dafka lit in the Rishus Harabim and dafka by night. If it's lamalim, if we're speaking about a gilui which is lamalim, which is no agbolas, so why do you have to light it dafka by night? Let's light it by day and let it continue into the night. I'll let it light it in the inside and let it shine out towards the outside, and let it light on in the right, and let it shine and permeate even the smile, even the left side. This that is being lit in dafka in by night and the left l'chayra shows on a chesarin that it doesn't have the power, it's not so powerful, it has to be dafka done in the night. So we have to really understand what's the emek, what's pshat in this beer of chassidus, that since we're speaking of such a great gilui, that's why dafka is lit in the chayshach and in the rishus and in the smile. So to understand all this, the Rebbe's maktim, the Maamar, says, I'll understand this by first understanding the pasuk, Yeducha Hashem kol masacha v'chasidacha yivarechucha, which the way that Rebbe Rashab explains this Maamar in the Hemshech of Eter, which is this Maamar is based on, Taish Geit Zoi, Yeducha Hashem is a level of Hashem which is higher than any understanding, is only Shaykh Haidah, means admission. You don't understand it, you can't comprehend it, you can only be made it to the Inyan. And this Madriga of Yeducha Hashem, which is higher than Ishtalshus, Amshach of it, Chassidim have the koyach to Yevarchucha, to be mamshech this into koy, into malchus. It means the Chassidim could be mavarech, be mamshech through their bracha. This high madriga of Yeducha Hashem, says the Rebbe, that this Inyan is combination of the mile of bracha, the mile of tefillah. We know the difference between bracha and tefillah. Bracha is bracha melashon amshachah, when somebody gives a bracha, it's pshat that he's standing in a place which is higher than the bracha, and he's bringing the bracha down, l'mayla l'mata. Tefillah is a person who's standing l'mata, and he's begging and he's asking the Eibishter to mamshech l'mayla l'mata. And there's a mile in each one. The mile in tefillah is, that the mile in bracha is that hamshacha is in a way of l'mayla l'mata, that it doesn't have to come through a bakasha. And the person who gives the bracha is b'koichel l'varech, is able to bring it down. The mile in tefillah is, though, that you're able to mamshech an inyan. Bracha means you only bring down what's in the makar. Tefillah is that even if there's a zera that the sin should not be nemshach, there's zihir ratzin. Tefillah is zihir ratzin to be bring down the inyan. That means that tefillah is the mile of tefillah is that it brings down from the mile of meishtalshlos. Whereas bracha can only bring down from meishtalshlos. So in Bazoi, Komtais, that this chassidim can be mamshech from a level of higher than meishtalshlos. The way of bracha is a chibur, the combination of bracha and tefillah together. This mile is a tremendous mile. They can bring them from higher than Shalshus and way of bracha. This Inyan will also be found by Al Derech V'Siva the Rabbi that he brought down through Amiras Torah. He was able to mamshech, even though there was a serious kshamim, there was no rain. There wasn't supposed to be rain in the world. He was able to reach higher than Shalshus and way through Amiras Torah. So the Rebbe asks, L'chayra, this mila isn't only by chassidim. It's also by lower level. We know there's three levels: tzadikim, yesharim, and chassidim. Tzaddik is the lowest level, Yashar is higher, and Chassid is even higher. And this Nakuda that you're able to be poil this from higher than Ishtalshlos in a way of a tzivui, of a bracha, is even found by a tzaddik, as we find the famous expression, HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes, there's a tzaddik mavatal. The Mishnah makes there's a gzeira, and the tzaddik is mavatal gzeira, which means that the tzaddik, even with the gzeira, means that the piece of Ishtalshlos is supposed to be this inyan. It's not supposed to be this Amshach, it's supposed to be a certain problem. And the tzaddik is b'kayach to be mevarech and bring down this in the chayk. So Ibazai, Dr. Rebbe, so what's the mile of chassidim? Why dafka chassidim we say this inyan? And this inyan is found also before, also when I get to tzadikim and yesharim as well. So for this, the Rebbe explains that the difference between a tzaddik, a chassid, and a Yashar is which madrig and Seresh is able to be mamshech. Chassid is able to bring down from the level which is known as Pnimius Atik, also known as Radla, pnimis of atik, whereas tzaddik and yashar only bring down the lower madrigas. So tzaddik can reach the level of chitzenes hakeser, also known as arich, and yashar can be mamshech from the level of pnimis hakeser, which is known as atik. Dafka chassid has the ability to bring not just from atik, but pnimis atik. Why is this? Because a chassid, as is brought into Kunei Zayar, Izal chassid hamas chassidim koinem kan delay, that a chassid is somebody who is oived Hashem, nicht not l'tzorech atzma yom l'tzorech avaya, he does kindness with his master. That means his whole avodas Hashem is only for, not even to quench his thirst or to bring down godliness for the sake of his own avos Hashem, but only for his Creator, only for Hashem. And because a chassid is such a great, tremendous level of bittul, that he doesn't have any of his mitzias involved in his avodah, which is higher than mitzias in ganzen, even the mitzias of a lakus of kedusha, which that is specifically the level of pnimis atik. This nakuda, this difference between the level of a lakus that each one draw down, is brought out in another nakuda in the hashpah that they accomplish and they add to the world when they come down. And there's a famous beard of chassidus when you get to the pasuk Atu Hashem Levadecha Ata Sisas Hashemayim. The first Ata, who Hashem Levadecha, describing Hashem himself, is with a hey. The second Ata, which is without a hey, is because in order for Hashem to be Sisas Hashemayim, in order for this Ata of Hashem to create a Shemayim, he has to have chaser hey, he has to be missing five madrigas, which is part of Seder Shtalshus, have to be a tzimtzum, has to be diminished in order for the world to be created. What are these 5 levels? So this explains that the 5 levels are Malchus is what's Mahava, but Malchus has to have a tzimtzum in the Pnimis of Malchus. It's number 1, Zoh number 2, Bina number 3, Chachma number 4, and also in Arich. Because since Arich is the Shirish of Seder Shtalshus, and with the Svidus originate in Arich, Arich is the long face where all the Svidus Hayben Zachan, the Zerampin, and where does the Zerampin come from? There's the Mount Midas get it from Arich Ampin and Mamela. In order for there to be a world which is totally, it has to be a total tzimtzum, it has to be a chasar and a 5 madrigas. Mamela, so in Arich, when you're being mamshich from Chisenes HaKeser, which is the level of Arich, that's still considered milah chasarin, still filling the gap and filling the lack that's missing that Malchus had. Malchus had all these inyanim. In order to create the world, it was a tzimtzum in it. And this tzimtzum and bringing back the level of Arich is b'chal milah chasarin. So this is what it's tzaddik is able to bring that from Chetzenes HaKes on this level of Arich, when it's still considered milah chasarin in Malchus, which is massive to the fact that tzaddik is the same shirish as the word tzedakah. Tzedakah means that you're giving charity. Charity is passion to give to a poor person. That means you're filling in his gap. You're giving him what he's lacking. But with the tzaddik through his amshach is only giving Malchus, only bringing down a level of Malchus into Malchus, a level which is filling in his gap, his void of what he had, and now he's missing. Yashar can reach already Pnimis HaKesed, which is also known as Atik, which that means that you're giving him something that you're not filling in a void that he had, but you're giving him more. That's giving him an abundance. That's called Ashirus. That's a famous expression that a poor person is you don't have you have to be Ma'alis Chasarna. You don't have to give him more. You don't have to give him an abundance. This giving be Mamshech Atik into Malchus is an abundance of something that is B'chal Ashirus. Chassid has a higher inyan. A chassid is able to bring down the Pnimis Atik, which Pnimis Atik is higher than a Milah Chasarin. It's what we call Gemilas Chesed. As the Gemara says, the Gemilas Chesedim is Beila Nia Beila Shirim, that even an Ashir who's rich and has an abundance and he's not lacking anything, you're still able to give him a Chesed and give him a Gemilas Chesed. So a Chassid, Milashan Chesed, is mamshich into Malchus Hashem Inyan, which is not just Milah Chasarin, it's not just he's something which is an abundance, but it's Chesed, which is even more than lacking his void, and even more than giving an abundance. It's what we call Chesed. It's what we call giving him, being kind to him, and sharing and helping him, and giving him an extra Inyan. Says the Rabbi, based on this we can understand the pasuk Keducha Hashem Kol Masacha V'Chasdacha V'Archucha. We asked the Shaila, what's nafka? You need a chassidus to accomplish this inyan. So first the Rabbi says, and maybe you could say that the etzem inyan, the real inyan, where is B'emes inyan of Haida'ah, that there's absolutely no Havana V'Asag at all, not even Yediyas Shlila. You can't understand this madrega, not even through Shlila, Dika Yifanim of Asaga. That's mainly Be'ikr, maybe in Pnimius Atik, more than any other madregas, because even Atik is some Shaykh Samidiyah. And the Rebbe says, I can't say that the Uftu is not in the Yeducha, the mile of the Chassid is in the Oifen that the Chassid accomplishes and is Mamshech in to Malchus, it's Amshach. Ve'emes, Sai the Chassid, and the Yashar and the Tzaddik can all be Mamshech into this level, all have the koyach to take this haydah and bring it down in the way of a bracha. But yet there's still a difference in the way they do it. That a chassid, that a tzaddik and a yashar do it in the oifen of what we call b'derech pa'ula. In the way the chassid accomplishes it in a whole different level, but the manner that the chassid can mamshech into malchus and accomplish the inyanim, the brachas that it has to bring down from the level of haydah is in a way of b'derech mamela. And for this, the Rebbe is going to be maktim to explain what are the difference between these three levels of keser. We call chitzonius keser, arich, pnimius keser, which is known as atik, and then in that gufa there's pnimius atik, which is known as the radla. Once we understand properly this inyanim, we'll understand what's the difference, what's the pshat when we say that a chassid does the b'deifna b'derech b'meila. And for this, the Rebbe gives a mashal between ratzon and tainug. But Ratzon and Tainug both have something in common, but yet they're different. What do they have in common? Ratzon and Tainug are both an expression of the nefesh bligvul. The rest of the nefesh, all the other krichas of the nefesh, seichel, midis, they're all limited. They all have their agbolas, very, very specific characteristic traits. When it comes to Ratzon and Tainug, there's a both kiluyim of the nefesh, which expresses the nefesh's bligvul. Ratzon expresses nefesh bligvul. Ratzon is pshat that I want something, and if I want, my nefesh wants, and there's nothing, no other koiches that can get in my way, even if I have certain limitations, certain restrictions. If I want very strongly, nothing can get in my way. The nefesh is bleak full and can get his way if he really wants. If the ratzon is strong, if the ratzon is there. Tainug is a similar nekuda. Tainug is pshat. The nefesh hata geshmak. Ha'emed is ach geshmak. It's not an expression of a specific koyach. It's the nefesh itself is enjoying it. Nefesh appreciating something. So kum soon the nefesh v'shas hata der geshmak hat. It's an expression of the esem nefesh. But yet that's the common denominator. But each one has its own way. The way it's pile. Ratzon is pshat that it showers over the other koyches. It takes over. It takes control. Keiches say one thing, the keiches have certain limitations, and sagt, ich will, and because I want, this is what's going to happen. But it doesn't change the keiches, doesn't make the keiches become different. It overpowers and it makes what he wants get done regardless. Whereas when it comes to Tainug is the way it operates is, it says geschmack ezach, and because this thing is geschmack, so Mamela, the Keiches themselves can understand that this is Gishmak, and therefore they themselves appreciate and want and lead and change to want to bring about this Tainug. They want to have each Koyach has b'pnimiyusay the Inyan of Tainug, avil haben and Gishmak and avil haben and Gishmak. So Mamela, the Pshas and Nefesh, avil haben and Gishmak, each one of the Keiches change. So it's similar, the difference of Ratzon and Tainug is similar to the difference of Ratzon and Seichel. As we learned in the previous Maamar, that Ratzon and Seichel, the difference Ratzon is pshat when you Ratzon is pshat mamaylo lamata, that ich will and I'm stronger than you. Whereas when it comes to Seichel, it's pshat I convince you, and I convince you something is right. So then even though you chatchila wanted it one way, now you change the way you think and you want it the way I convinced you. Al derech says Ratzon and Tainug, Ratzon is pshat that it's not a negay of was du willst, ich will, and ich will, the fire is da muss sein azay. Tainug is pshat nein, nicht ich will, du willst. The Baal sagt Geschmack gesagt, das ist du bist achillig von der Nefesh. Du hast da Inyan, du hast bepnimius the von Tainug, sag Geschmack, und du willst doch haben Geschmack. Und wie Baal das, the Nefesh decides that this Inyan is Geschmack, willst du dem Inyan, so Mamela, you yourself change and to what the Nefesh appreciates, what the Nefesh says, as for Em is Geschmack, das bringt zu, and Em Geschmack. So this is all the way it is in the mashal. The way it is in the Labkowski is a similar nekuda. We know that chassidus says that arich is a mashal for A mashal for arich is ratzin, and a mashal for atik is tainuk. It's pshat matzad, the level of chitzei nisa keser, which is arich. That's the ratzin of the Eibishter. And the primis ratzin and the primis keser, that's in your tainuk. Going back to the way we connected it to tzaddik and yasha, says the Rabbi very geschmack that we see two different Maamar Chazals in the way a tzaddik and yasha can operate and change state shalshus. Regarding a tzaddik, we said before the lashon is tzaddik Kadosh Baruch Hu goes over tzaddik mavatal. That means that the seder shalshus Kadosh Baruch Hu seder shalshus vil a gvis ofen comes the tzaddik and there's mavatal. What's the as mavatal or zokt as mesad rasim from the Eibishter that was he's mavatal and he overpowers the other keiches. The way it is mitzad seder shalshus, the way it is mitzad Kadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the lashon that is brought in it. How do we know that tzaddik goes like Kadosh Baruch Hu mavatal? Tzaddik moishel b'yiras elikim memshala, as we know, is inyan of dictatorship. Ich bin der balabas, since I gave us the willst. Whereas when it comes to yasha, there's another Maamar Chazal that says that somebody call him Malam has been Amar is Torah filu feel of the Eibishter will give is mevatel b'shvilei. Here it doesn't say that the tzaddik is mevatel with the Eibishter. Here it says fakert because Baruch Hu mevatel b'shvilei. Baruch Hu mevatel b'shvilei brings out this nakuda that mevatel b'shvilei, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu itself is mevatel. The Eibishter, the level of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, which says the level of Siddur Shalshus, when Saddam is the Gven, a Gavisa Gzeira and a Gavisa Eifin, and Alain is mevatel because of this person is Malamed ben Amar is Torah. And this is connected to what we said, that a tzaddik and a yasher, that a tzaddik is mamshech inyan of ratzin, and he has the power mitzad the darga v'lakus that is mamshech, that he can be mevatel the Hakadosh Baruch Hu. The what we say is mitzad seish tashlis. Whereas when it comes to yasher, we say not that he's mevatel, not that he is mevatel. Was the Hakadosh Baruch Hu, not Hakadosh Baruch Hu is mevatel. As mitzad seish tashlis itself, tutzachuf as an alein versteht. And in the field as menach mevatel sein. But this is all tzaddik and yasha. And then there's a higher level called chassid. What chassid? Chassid, we said, is mamshech from pnimius atik. Now, what is pnimius atik? So the way that it puts it in the Maamar is it's the emes kind of the Eibishter. Avisi is the emes. We call amitis hematzah nimtzu kol nimtzoim. The reality of Alakus. And the reality of Alakus is the reality of all the Nivraim. There's nothing that's outside the Eibishter, and the Eibishter's reality is the reality of the entire Seder Shalshus. So Mitzad Arich and Atik says that Arich is a ratzin which is kilo menaged to Seder Shalshus, mevatel Seder Shalshus, and Atik which has to permeate and change the Seder Shalshus, but yet Atik is also melashon and Netak. It's also disconnected, and therefore it has to be poil on Seder Shalshus to change and convince Seder Shalshus, so to speak. That's the Inyan is geschmack. Mamela villa in der Reifen, aber darf to chufnen, beiten. Mitzad pnimius atik hertzachon as that your emes, the reality is Alakus. That Alakus is not separate from you. That's not pshad that the Eibishter, it's not an Eibishter from the Welt. The emes and Metzias of Welt is the emes and Metzias of Alakus. The emes kite of Alakus is the emes kite from Yeder Zach. So Mela, when that Inyan is in Misgala, so the Eifin Vis as the Eibishter Mitzad Pnimius Atik as Mezgala, as the Inyan is as the Eibishter will, so then even as Peil and Ser Shalshus is what we call B'derech V'Mela. It's not that it darf Uftan and Peil Zayin, nor so Nifal B'derech V'Mela. And on this is the third Maamar Chazal, which is brought in the Maamar, like Rabbi Chassid, that Filu Hu At Emer Hachin, Hu Emer Hachin, Didi Kaima, Didach Kaima, Didi Lai Kaima. That even though Mitzad Seish Tashlus, Snav Zayin and Enev, and Mitzad Chassid will an andere. Didi Kaima, Didach Kaima, Didi Lai Kaima. Was the Chassid will, das is Kaima, das bleibt, das is Faran, and the andere is Faran. It's not the Pshad, the other Inyan has to be in his battle, either in a way of Gzeira, or in a way that the Kadosh Baruch Hu in his mamato, but in even if this is the emes reality, if this is the emes guide, this is B'derech V'Mela is nicht the art von andere Sach. There can't be any other way of viewing the Inyan inside them. Wie Sarz Cham wie Misad Lakus. And this is also mizbate in the three efanim, in the way they're mavar, the klippus and the sitra achra. But the bitter, the way it comes mitzad arich, mitzad ratzin, we call the nesma ma'ilo lamata, that it's mevatel, so the even that it's mevatel the klippus, which this is b'derach klal, the way it was by the Mishkan, that it says that he traveled in the Moshe Rabbeinu said, Kuma Hashem yafutzvei vecha pshad, that it destroys and it gets rid of, and it's mevatel and gans in the klippus. As the Lashon is, that it's hiding the Chashmak Ram, the Aru went, wherever the Aru went, it was hiding the Chashmak Ram and destroyed it. Whereas the Gilui of Atik is the Daiger, which was Bechalus in time made into Beis Hamikdash, the Gilui of Shlomo Melech. Which Shlomo Melech was, that he was in Mavatal Fakert, he was Moshe holding the Netzutzos to come to him, that the Netzutzos themselves when his bar, the famous Dugma is brought them out to Malkasra, that when she heard the mile of Shlomo, she herself decided to come into Yerushalayim, and then she was totally turned over. Not that he was Mavatal her and he destroyed her Fakert. She was in his bar and Mitzad Inyan Mitzad Tachte, because the beer, the way it comes Mitzad Gilui of Atik is an Eifen, das ist ein beer was kommt und durch nimmt durch and it lifts up the Tachte, and the way the Tachte is Mitzad. Aber there's two chassidus that we see in the time of Shlomo Melech, and that is that first of all, Shlomo Melech only inspired those that had a shaychus to be inspired, but not necessarily everybody was inspired. She had the chachma. She was inspired. When the second nekuda is that the way she was inspired was only b'shas she came mitzad atzma to Shlomo. She was in her place. She heard about Shlomo the greatest guy, but there was no birur yet. In order for her to be inspired l'poil, she had to actually come to Yerushalayim, to Yerushalayim was, because Yibal that the mitzad birur is mitzad atik. So mitzad echas nishna if nas is mevatel the tzayter in her as fakert to help to move once they get to mageshmak and reveal das in Alain it geht mit, but mitzad sheini Yibal das kommt nicht mitzad kommt mitzad Inyan was is the Herzochan as the Tainuk von Alakos und the Mele Villa having their tainug, so he has to come. If he has a shaykhus to this tainug, if he also has a shaykhus to Inyan, he has to come towards Shlomo Melech. He has to come towards the kedusha, because and only through coming there can be nizbar. Whereas in the tzitzis from the asalavi, when it's the gilui of asalavi, the gilui of Apechal Amim Safa Brura Lav Dishchem Echad, Damot is the Birur Ershtin, it's Nishnar in Diva Saman Ashaychas to Nizbar and our Filo in Klippus Tachra. There's no Hagbala to who's Nizbar. And the second thing is, it doesn't have to be in a way that they have to come to Yerushalayim, or the Virurim, wherever they are in the world. They feel this Gilui, and this is the Valdabiruris, B'derech that they themselves realize this is the only reality this could be. So therefore, it happens in Eifen and Badafnish Ukumen and a gewisse art. It's not that somebody else is being a varu and Hadir Alain. Herzchan doesn't dein emes mitzis, and emes mitzis is a lakus. Hamela, you yourself want a lakus mitzlatzme, and also it's not there's nothing that is ein lechadar v'chuzimenu. There's nothing that can't be permeated with this gilui. There's nothing that's too far. It says even nitzutzes that are nechshach legamri, gimel kibbutz atmeis, that don't have any feeling of closeness, of lichtigkeit, of hecherkeit, of edlikkeit, of tainug. V'bal das it's hard to find that emes mitzis alakus is their mitzis of them is alakus. Alakus is the only reality that exists, so that is their reality as well. Even they are nisbared as well, and not only the nitzutzes nechshachim, but even the gashmis alein, because the gashmis alein has the nitzutz. Talking here about the nifal, not the kein chapul, the nifal alein, eichet bert nisbared hert and Herzchan enem as is mamitis imatzi nim to call himself that his mitzis is the reality of alakus. With this concludes the Rebbe, we can understand that's what the Rebbe Rashab said, that chassidus is ein seif shabarad la. Chassidus is this level of pnimius atik, was matfrier megeret. As chassidus is megala the nekuda, as also is alakus, as mamitis imatzei, as the emes kite from alakus is b'chol makim. It's the reality. One of the miles of Shidvin Chassidus is, as Chassidus can uftan as a keches tivim zalveren keches alakim, a natural keches of your nefesh bahamis to be able to become getlach, Kolzman, there's an upshade between Elokus and Teva and Welt. Welt is a besondere Sache, and Elokus is a besondere Sache. So you can have the Kech HaStiv and become Kech Tzadikim. But when it's in Sgala, that's not an upshade. There's only one reality, and that is the reality of the Teva itself, and the Kech HaStiv could become Kech Tzadikim. And with this we can understand, this that the Rebbe Hashavat gesagt, wegen Chassidus, wegen Alter Yitzchak Kislev, is a Fasam Enes Chusser, said the Alter Rebbe, as his al derech mashal hazayis as a when you crush the olive comes out the oil. What's the diuk haloshin of the oil? Oil has two different tivim. The oil is eini mesar b'shamash, and oil floats to the top. It doesn't get mingled into other liquids. So sheni we have a klal shem hafafeh b'chol davar, which means that the shemen saturates and makes everything that it's the whole substance that it's in, it makes it fatty. Heißt es, meret wegen der Kudere Dage ist Metzadach, meret wegen Puni Metzadach Dachs Inyanim, Dachs Dage. Was is in Mesari B'Shemashkin, you can't really connect it to any other levels of Lakus, of Seder Shalshlos, of Lakus. Masad Sheni, there's nothing that's separated from it, and therefore it saturates and it makes fatty. Everything that it reaches is Rafeh B'chol Davar, it's a Tertuf, and the ganze Zach, as in Ishtak Kein Zach, as Oyserem, as Chassidus is Megal, der Nekude, as Welt Allein is Alakus. Mamela, that's the pshat. It's a skis was hungry. Yefutza man asacha chutza, as the mayanis allein come into the chutza. That even though chutza l'cheir is totally separate, and mayanis minat vegen the hechs inyanim, but the chutza itself becomes reflates mit the mayanis. And what this Rebbe says, we can understand. Inyan Lehavin Inyan Neros Chanukah, the Inyan of Neros Chanukah. The Neros Chanukah is a gili of der nekude fun. The gili fun nishtam gili from Mile Meshtashlus. There's gili is also, but it's the gili of Pnimis Atik, and therefore it's misbate in the fact that it's 8 candles. And why does it have to? What's pshat that it's meir bachutz? It's pshat nicht as the lichtigkeit kommt. The lichtigkeit is in Pnim. Once it kommt on, it's leicht like a candle when you make it inside, and then the rays of the candle go outside. And the pshat is as the leichste cheshach and as amiveg as the cheshach as the lichtigkeit gefinzach be'etzem in the cheshach alein. It's not just a ray of it that reaches there. It's the cheshach itself isn't distant, isn't far from the light. And Mamela, the light itself, the ganze lichtigkeit is in the chutz. Mamela, that's the pshat that we light it dafka b'chutz and mitzad smol, and in the night as the etzem lichtigkeit alein, the etzem oir alein is faran in the chutz, nicht nur the lichtigkeit von ihm is mispash the eichel chutz, nor sin shtak echilus Shmaryahu lamata, and the mata alein hat the ganze oir. And with this we can understand. This was brought out after the chiddush of the Mesiras Nefesh about the Shiur and his children over the Mesiras Nefesh, which in time of Purim. Then there was also Mesiras Nefesh, but the Uft of Hanukkah was that they went to a Gashmistic war. If al Pitava they knew that there's no way of winning, why are they going to a war? Alamai is the pshat has changed by zeh as a kenish zayin hafrada, a separation between Teva and the Eibishter. Now the Eibishter will give us a zach. Eibishter wants the Lakus to be misgaber over the cheshach. So it's not pshat. It's impossible that Teva should be menagid, should hold back. And Mela they were able to go. They went to a physical war, knowing that the Teva will not get in its way. And this is the pshat that Ner Chanukah to koyach ad kalya nigla the tamidai. The ufta of Chanukah is that even nigla tamidai, which is mamish the moed the malachas shamayim, the klippus alein that are nechshach eiram lagamri, and the moed the malachas shamayim they're against the menagid and those that fight against the Beis Hamikdash. And from this vegan there's a kaloyin being nifel in them. Not only that they are in this battle, which that would be to break their mitzvahs, shatter their mitzvahs, but they themselves nigla kalya come to a kaloyin. And they come to hechekait, they themselves become ufketan v'ndurketan medelikus. Just to conclude with the one akudah that the Rebbe said when he in the Sicha Hamshach of this Maamar, the Rebbe said, "For them versteht in the uftu von emes services online chassidus v'azoi zayin limud chassidus is peiling ganz Welt, ganz Seder Shalshlos."